Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the In-Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I wanted to do a video just kind of highlighting one of my favorite reissue campaigns that are currently going on at the moment. There's a lot of great reissue, audiophile, analog reissue series at the moment. You've got OJC, all analog, Contemporary, all analog, Bluesville. You've got the Atlantic 45 RPM series stuff, Tone Poets, Blue Note Classics. But one of my absolute favorites at the moment is actually this one. This is the Rhino Hi-Fi series. And what's great about this catalog is most of the audiophile reissue records that you're getting now are jazz. I love jazz. I primarily listen to jazz, but it is nice to be able to get really high quality, ultra high quality analog rock records. And that's something that's kind of been missing for a lot of years from the audiophile marketplace, because for the most part, the major labels, Universal, Warner, Sony, don't want to license out their creme de la creme titles to, boutique audiophile labels. Now, they do it under certain circumstances, UHQRs, but it's a high price point, 45 RPMs. They don't feel it competes with what they put out. But for the most part, you're not seeing a lot of high quality 33 RPM audiophile records in the rock genre. And that's by design. The labels don't mind putting something out that's $150 that doesn't compete with their $30 reissue, or sometimes even, for double disc 45 RPM for $60, $65, because that really doesn't compete with their pressing. But the problem is, for a lot of years, these manufacturers aren't putting out high quality 33 RPM rock titles, but that changed with the Rhino Hi-Fi series. Now, the Rhino Hi-Fi series is all analog so far anyways, cut from the master tapes, all done by Kevin Gray. And what's nice about this is it's the label themselves doing it. And since the label themselves is doing it, they don't really, for the most part, have to go back to themselves and ask for permission to release something. Now, granted, there's always things that are involved with licensing from artists' approval. I'm sure that for the most part is at the minimum with a series like this, because the labels tend to call most of the shots. So this has been an absolute fantastic series. I've got them all here. I think there's been 14 titles thus far, starting with the Cars. The Cars really set the stage for this series in general. So let me put these to the side. When the series came out, unfortunately, and to my dismay, and I made a video specifically griping about it, the series is a Rhino Hi-Fi exclusive, so you can only get it from them directly. I kind of bemoan that quite a bit, and I still kind of stand by that, because you are limiting the amount of people that are able to experience these high-quality records. Granted, also that's limited by the fact that they only made 5,000. And in some cases, that's not a problem. There's plenty available. In some cases, such as the case with the Black Sabbath self-titled that sold out in a couple days and then shot up to $150 a week later, 5,000 wasn't enough. My guess with this catalog, especially considering the bevy of titles that they have at their fingertips, hopefully that 5,000 is not set in stone. Keep in mind, this is an Atlantic Warner series. What if they were to do something like Led Zeppelin? Can you imagine what 5,000 Led Zeppelin 2s would do on the secondary market? If they only did 5,000, it would come out as a $500 record. I would surmise that significantly more classic records, Led Zeppelins, were done, over the course of the different iterations, the 200 gram, the 180 gram. Imagine what those Rhino Hi-Fis would be if they only did 5,000. So I'm not sold on that idea of only doing 5,000. And I absolutely despise the only exclusive to their website business model. And I've highlighted that in many videos. My major problem with that is people in the know, audiophiles, they're seeking out these titles, but just the casual customer that's perusing a record store that doesn't quite know about what's capable on vinyl, they're not really having access to those records because they don't know about them. And then when they do realize 2-3 years down the road, when they get into it a little more, you're a situation where you got $200 Car self-titled or $150 Black Sabbath. I like the idea of having them in production longer, especially because they're so damn awesome. Now, some of the titles that haven't been selling as well have actually made their way as Rhino brick and mortar exclusives. So that is kind of nice. When it's come to the John Coltrane Ole, I actually have this available on the website because they opened this up to brick and mortar stores to sell. Might be out of it at the moment, but I'll probably have more coming out in the next week. Now, Miles Davis Tutu is also another one of the titles that they've opened up to brick and mortar record stores. Hopefully that's something they can do for some of these other titles. I'm sure they're not all selling to the caliber of, say, the Television, which is sold out, the Car self-titled, which is sold out, and the Black Sabbath, which is sold out and sold out the quickest. I want to say the Cars took the longest to sell out. Television, maybe the second longest. You know, the second and third were close, but the Black Sabbath was quick and in a hurry to sell. I mean, it was quick. Quick. I did a standalone shootout of this particular record, comparing against German Vertigos, UK Vertigos, first pressing US copies, reissues. I recommend you watch that video. The Rhino Hi-Fi was my number one choice. I'll cut to the chase, but if you want to see how I got to that, you can watch the video. But the series has been fantastic. So some of the highlights for me have been the Car self-titled, have been actually the Coltrane Ole, because there's been a lot of audiophile 45 RPMs of that. Bernie Grundman also, I want to say, did it as a 33, maybe 15 years ago. But for me, for my ear, I've actually, you know, and maybe that's just training with the Tone Poets, the Music Matters, the Blue Note classic titles. Kevin's mastering of jazz titles works the best for my ear. It is the closest to that 60s aggressive Rudy Van Gelder mastering, but clearer, better dynamic range, more bass, you know, an uncut bass, and just a lot more clarity from not being compressed. So for me, it's been, my ear likes his mastering the best when it comes to jazz titles. So having that at 33 RPM cut by Kevin was awesome. This Car self-titled, highly recommend it. Moving in stereo on here, you know, that has that 3D panning effect, is just godly on this particular record. Highly recommend it. Man, can you imagine what is a possibility in this catalog? If you look over my shoulder there, I put probably my number one want would be the Talking Heads catalog. One of my absolute all-time favorite bands of, technically a 70s band, but they had their most success in the 80s. But I would say the Talking Heads in New Order, for me, are by far and away one of my top 10 favorite bands. And something that I would love to see. I'm pretty sure both of those are Rhino titles. So, Rhino, if you're watching, get on it. Mike needs some Talking Heads, analog, audiophile, Kevin Gray cut records. Okay. Rhino did the Talking Heads in the past. I don't think they were from the master tape, though. I don't think so. Because Rhino has always been pretty good about putting on the hype sticker that these were cut directly from the master tape. And that's something that they've been doing for years. They have done Coltrane Sound. They have done Ornette Coleman's Change of the Century. Probably one of Ornette's least out there records. I actually haven't had a chance to listen to this one yet. This is still sealed. There's a lot of records coming into the shop, so I don't always have time to listen to everything. Absolutely love Candio. They did Candio. Only double so far as an artist goes. But I have a feeling this catalog, this Rhino Hi-Fi series, is going to be wildly successful. And I feel like things like this, you'll start seeing more and more artists' catalogs get covered. Here's hoping they do more of the Cars. I'm not the biggest Van Morrison fan, so here this record lies sealed, but I have it. At some point, I will listen to it. Actually, right before I shot this video, I'm not a huge Doobie Brothers fan, but I figured let's listen to this. China Grove on this is worth the price of admission. It absolutely smokes. I compared this against the Speaker's Corner, which Kevin also cut, and this has such a more detailed sound. I won't say analytical, but more detailed sound is the Speaker's Corner. Highly recommend it. This is the one I would buy over the Speaker's Corner. I think you can get both of them. They're about the same price as well. There are some drawbacks to Rhino Hi-Fi, and I'll talk about that at the end, besides the fact that you can't just get them at brick and mortar record stores. I mean, that's just, oh, God. What's this world coming to? You just can't walk into your local favorite mom and pop record store and pick up these high quality records. That's just ridiculous. Again, I'm not a Grateful Dead fan. I know. The things I get chastised the most is, Mike, how could you not possibly just be in love with the Grateful Dead? Mike, how could you possibly not be in love with Frank Zappa? You know, I don't know what to tell you. Crossings. Herbie Hancock did a couple of records on Warner Brothers. This is one of them. I don't think this is sold particularly well. I kind of gauge how they're selling by how many copies are available on Discogs, as far as people show how many they have in their collection. The Jaco Pastores, again, I don't think this is a title that sold exceptionally well, but man, what an absolute fantastic record. Highly recommend this. Okay, I also did a shootout of television's Marquee Moon. How this particular pressing fixed so many issues that I had with the original, which were, it was shrill and bright. And so many people have come out and said, well, that's just ridiculous. How in the world could that get mastered that way? The artist's intent, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a damn about the artist's intent? Because you always still have the original. If you love the bright, shrilly sound, go back and buy an original. They're not the cheapest records in the world, but they're not going to cost you, another mortgage. I liked the more listenable, mid-range, tony version of the Rhino Hi-Fi Marquee Moon. I like the fresh perspective on it. As that time went on, there's been kind of people have forwarded me snippets, and members of the band, actually, one of the members, I think, wrote in their book, off the top of my head, I don't know, but they didn't really care for the sound of Marquee Moon when it originally came out. They didn't elaborate on that. I mean, it was not Tom Verlaine, it's the... somebody will put that in the comments below. But that was an excerpt from the book. Anyways, I really dug this. I think this was the most controversial of all of the Rhino Hi-Fis. Maybe the Black Sabbath. Everybody was in love with their Vertigo. Anytime you chastise someone's beloved high-dollar record, the knives come out. People really want to hold on to the fact that their record that they paid $1,000 for is the one to own. How dare you talk about my Black Sabbath Vertigo? It's the greatest. It's good. It's the original article. You're getting a beautiful first pressing from a band, UK pressing. I get all that. It's iconic. It's historical. But the Rhino Hi-Fi sounds so much damn better. Okay, and I'm going to save this for last because this has actually been so far, I want to say, my favorite Rhino Hi-Fi. Now, granted, the Black Sabbath was up there. The Cars were up there. But the Rhino Hi-Fi title that I've listened to the absolute most has been this Devo, Freedom of Choice. I love Devo, but this record sounds so damn good. It is an absolute banger. It was exceptionally well recorded at the time. And it sounds so good. So much better, detailed. The drums have such a nice, tight, all the toms have just a nice, beautiful, rich texture to them. You can hear things so well. It's so detailed. I could just go on and on and on about the series in general. But if I'm going to recommend you one that's still in print that you should rush out and get before it goes out of print, that is this Devo. This Devo is so damn good. Now, there are some drawbacks as of the filming of this video with Rhino. I have yet to, maybe out of all these, because I have a little trick with buying Rhino Hi-Fis. My trick has been I buy 2 or 3 copies on separate transactions, and I just go like this, and I hope one of the 3 or 4 copies that I bought arrives in good shape without a dented corner. And about 20% of the time, that's normally the case. And see, I have an advantage because I have a record store and I can offload the extra copies. And every now and then I hit a home run because I overbuy a couple of too many Black Sabbaths or too many Marquee Moons. And then every now and then I have a situation where I've got titles that are harder to sell. Now, if you don't have a record store to get rid of your extra copies, and you don't just have the ability to buy endless amounts of these records, I don't know what to tell you. Short of you can buy the Miles Davis and the John Coltrane from theingroove.com, and they're going to come to you nice and clean and tight. And if you have customer service related issues, I will handle it. Very quick fashion. But that has been a shortcoming of dealing with Rhino directly. Just the bottom line is when you deal with these big uber conglomerates, and they all sell direct now, Universal, Rhino, Sony. When you deal with all these big uber conglomerates, they don't put the same tender loving care into the shipment of their product. See, with me, I micromanage every aspect of the in-groove. I constantly just make the rounds. I walk from the customer service area to the record pricing cleaning area to the shipping area and then back. And then I do that all day long. And I monitor the emails. And if anything's out of control or it doesn't, not to my liking, I fix it immediately. That's never going to be the case with the big conglomerates. And that's unfortunate because it seems like a lot of these Rhino Hi-Fis have made it to the marketplace in less than perfect shape, which is a shame because this is really the utmost highest quality production you're going to put out. Short of, I guess the pressing plan can be argued. If I was to do any one thing different about this, I would press it at, it'd be one of my 3 favorite plants: RTI, QRP, or Sony Japan. If I was going to press these, I would do it there. But for the most part, I've had pretty flawless vinyl on all of these, so that's not really been an issue. Covers are fantastic. Everything's fantastic about this. Now, Rhino has made, in their defense, some improvements from what I heard. The mailers are marginally better. And I will give you a trick. If you buy 4 or 5, if you buy 5 records at a time, that seems to be the sweet spot because they use a different box. If you buy 10 records, they use a supersized box and the records flop around in there. So I've tried it every which way. 1 record, 2 records, 5 records, and 10 records. And I would say the sweet spot is 5 records. So there you go. Hopefully, though, again, more of these get opened up, or maybe they come out with non-numbered versions for hi-fi stores or regular record stores. That would be amazing. You can keep the limited versions of it on the website, and then you could open up the non-numbered versions for the masses. But to do such amazing job on the production of these and limited it to 5,000, I'm still not on board with it. But holy cow, this series is fantastic. And again, I will pivot to Rhino Hi-Fi and maybe the OJC just because they're starting from scratch with the most top-tier titles from probably the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th greatest jazz catalog of all time, which is under the ownership of Concord. So I will say the OJCs and these Rhino Hi-Fi titles have been my favorite thus far. Part of the reason is because I'm kind of lazy and I like 33 RPMs. And unless a 45 sounds monumentally better, I prefer not to listen to them. But there are 45 RPMs that sound monumentally better. The 45 RPM of Miles Davis's Kind of Blue and The Doors' LA Woman. Unbelievable. In 45 RPM, they are light years better than everything else. But there you go. Those are kind of some of my thoughts on the Rhino Hi-Fi series, and I've got a lot of hopes for some amazing titles in the future. I think we're averaging at a couple a month, maybe 2 every 6 weeks. But check us out online at theingroove.com. Until next time.